Thank you, Corla, and I appreciate you dedicating time to this very important issue to allow me to raise it here today directly with the Minister. And I do want to raise the whole issue of the future of An Post Mail Centre in Portlaoise. For well over a year now, there has been a question mark in relation to the reorganisation of the mail centres with An Post around the country. And I understand possibly this day week, the 27th of the month, there may be a board meeting of An Post at which they may make a decision in relation to the future of mail centres throughout the country. Now, this process has been going on quite a bit of time. I think the case in favour of Portlaoise is outstandingly strong, and I would ask the board to make the right decision and to give a commitment at its board meeting next week to the future of the mail centre in Portlaoise. There's outstanding staff in the area, but above all I want to say the 200 staff there have great experience, very high use of good technology in the area. But Portlaoise Mail Centre has a number of very key important features. It is the area where all parcels come into the country. They're all processed in the Portlaoise area for onward distribution. Secondly, because of that, there's a strong customs presence from the Revenue Commissioners based in the mail centre at Portlaoise, and they have all sophisticated equipment to detect anything illicit coming into the country that shouldn't be coming into the parcel post. They have an outstanding dog unit. Regularly we see the dogs unit being mentioned locally in relation to seizures of drugs and other illicit products coming into the country. And it is very important that this and it's unique to Portlaoise. It is nowhere else in the country. So it makes no sense to remove this facility that is already up and running very successfully in Portlaoise and to try and transplant it to somewhere else. There are 4 locations around the country where there are mail centres: Dublin, Portlaoise, Cork, and I think Athlone, the Westmeath area as well. And I would make the case that in relation to Portlaoise, it is the most strategic location in Dublin, or outside of Dublin. I know the city centre and the capital city would presumably need a mail sorting centre because of the large volume of posts. But when you get to Portlaoise, you are within an hour and a half or so of all the regions in the southern half of the country. Where I live just outside Portlaoise, to give you an example, I'm an hour and a half from Dublin Airport, an hour and 15 minutes from Shannon Airport, less than 2 hours from Cork Airport. You can get to Portlaoise, to all the areas in the country, in the southern region of the country, that An Post would want to get its parcels and post overnight for early delivery the next morning coming from Portlaoise. And I would stress that if mail comes into Portlaoise and gets sorted overnight, the trucks, we have outstanding motorways in the Midland region, whether it's to Cork or to Limerick or heading on to Waterford or wherever, and you can get to all the cities I've mentioned, including Limerick and Kerry and Cork in the southern half of the country, within an hour and a half to 2 hours. So it would be an excellent facility to confirm if there has to be a decision in relation to closing mail centres. I would say Portlaoise is very strategically located, and I think it would be the best location, and I would ask An Post to confirm that. Now, I would have been in correspondence following staff contacting me over the last year or so, and in May 2018 I have a letter from David McRedmond, the Chief Executive Officer, talking about that, saying they're reassessing their national mails processing capacity, including the mail centres, of which Portlaoise is one of 4, and I've mentioned the others as well. Just very recently, 30th of April, I had another letter from An Post in the GPO, again saying that they're subject to Labour Court recommendations, and this matter is under active consideration in relation to this matter. So I'm pleading to you, Minister, Portlaoise is a very strategic location. It has the best road network out of Portlaoise of any of the mail centres in the country. It's imperative that An Post keep its centre there. I know you'll say it's a matter for the board, but I'm raising it here to impress on the board the location of Portlaoise, and I would ask the board to commit to the future of the Portlaoise Mail Centre at its next board meeting.
Thank you, Deputy Fleming. Minister.
Thanks very much. Firstly, I'd like to express my appreciation for Deputy Fleming raising this. I know it is of acute concern to many people, and indeed last week in the Dáil he possibly saw that one of the other postal districts that were our mailing sorting centres that were on the list was raising their case, and clearly, as the Deputy knows, because he's very experienced chairing committees. Indeed, I soldiered with him on committees. He is very aware of the legal position that this is the responsibility of An Post. And I would like to apologise in advance for, I think, the suggestion in the script that you were suggesting that I should intervene. I don't think you did actually suggest that, so I withdraw that sentence in the script. Not that I'm going to deliver the script anyhow, but I think you know very well, I think the House knows well, the journey that An Post has been on. There has been a 40% fall in mail deliveries. Even this year, I think it was 8%. And, you know, An Post have to restructure their business. They came close to meltdown just a couple of years ago, and they had to undertake a major restructuring plan. And part of that restructuring plan, as the Deputy knows, has been a new deal with their employees, which involved a pay increase, but also involved as a part of that one of the mail centres would close, but that choice would be made on the best interests of the company, its employees, and its customers. And that continues to be the case. I think An Post is acutely aware of the important regional role that they play, and are going to weigh this decision very carefully. But I think I'd also like to acknowledge publicly in the House the success that An Post and its employees have brought to the task of restructuring. They have rebuilt new areas of business, or built from scratch new areas of business, particularly in parcel delivery, but also in new retail areas, financial services, and so on. And that really is a testimony to the creativity of the company, being able to not only stabilise its business but show significant operating profit this year. However, ultimately it still has to continue the work of restructuring its business and building in the new areas of growth, and that unfortunately means it still has to restructure the mailing sorting offices, which are part of that pay deal and part of the journey that they are on. So I think the Deputy has made a very articulate case for the merits of the office in Portlaoise that he advocates for, and I'm sure the company will be mindful of the case being made by public representatives in their evaluation of this decision. But the decision does rest with the board and not with me as Minister, and I think that is as it should be. I think people would be rightly offended if this was going to be a decision made by a Minister deciding between different mail sorting centres, not on the basis of the best interests of that company building its employment base and building its customer base, but on some political calculation. So, you know, I have faith in the board that we and I and my predecessors indeed have appointed, and I believe that they will make this decision in the best interests of the company, its workers, and the customers they serve.
Deputy Fleming. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Minister, and I appreciate your remarks. I'm straight up front. Essentially, I know the board have been given responsibility, and all I would ask you as Minister is to ensure the transcript of the debate that's said here, and that the fact that I'm raising the issue is transmitted to An Post headquarters, so they're aware of what we're saying, because obviously when they're in the Labour Court and when they're dealing with the trade unions, what we have to say here is totally irrelevant, with a slightly broader perspective than only looking at it from a staffing point of view. We're here representing the customers, we're here representing, to an extent, you know, the people of Ireland, and our views need to be taken into account. And all I'm saying is, if you pass on the transcript to them and ask them to consider it in an objective manner, I would be satisfied they will come to the right decision, which means keeping Portlaoise open into the future. And the reason I say that, because, Minister, you have said An Post have been doing their best to reorganise their facilities. We all know there's a considerable drop in the volume of, you know, people posting letters. That's a simple fact. But I think the delivery of parcels is increasing quite substantially with the amount of online shopping. The amount of online shopping that happens now, people, you know, we've all experienced it. You can book something online on a Sunday night at midnight, and lo and behold, on Tuesday morning is hand delivered to your front door by a van. And I think An Post have a key role to play on that, and that's why I think the Portlaoise central location is so good for achieving that. They're expanding their service for parcel deliveries to 6 days a week, up from 5, which is to improve their service and match what's out there. We call it in the strictly private sector, and it's important to do that. Again, I would emphasise, because of the strong parcel function, sorting and delivery in Portlaoise, and all inward parcels come into Portlaoise, there's a strong customs presence there in Portlaoise. It makes no sense to close down such a facility and having to reopen the same facility somewhere else. And finally, I would say, look, everything goes to the big cities in this Dublin, or whether it's Dublin or the other area. It's important that where you have a good, viable business in regional towns, that you hold on to that. And I would ask Portlaoise be approved by the An Board of An Post in that context. Thank you.
Deputy Minister, to conclude.
I can assure the Deputy that I will have the transcripts of this debate passed on to An Post as he requests. As I say, I think he is making a very articulate case for Portlaoise, and I know that An Post are very conscious of the regional role they play and the importance that they play in regional development. But as I say, this is a decision that they will have to decide, and I know they will decide it on the basis of the best interests of the company, its employees, and the customers and communities that they serve.